My name is Marci Chen, and I'm the Tech Services Manager at McKinney Public. And this is Ann Gustafson. She's one of my library techs, and she does this procedure monthly with for us. So she's also going to present with me. Okay, so today you're going to learn just a very simple routine to delete your holdings each month. I'm going to share with you some reports that you can share to help your selectors know when something might need to be replaced. We're going to share reports on how to identify items that you do want to keep that either still give you joy or you think you better keep around because they have fines associated with them. And then we're also going to talk about how to export the bib records so that you can update your holdings. What we're not going to do is show you how to update your holdings with OCLC. So we're just going to talk about how to get the things out of Koha. So why is this important? It kind of seems like a routine task that really doesn't have a big effect on people. When we first migrated to Koha in 2016, I was a brand new tech services supervisor. I had done the process that it was handed down to me in our former ILS, and we migrated to Koha. And of course, I'm also over acquisitions. So I really focused on getting EDI set up and getting orders to come in. And I figured, I'll figure this out later. At that same time, OCLC also was migrating to a new system of updating your holdings. So it was kind of a perfect storm of, I don't want to deal with this right now, so I'm just going to let it slide. So I guess about month 4 or 5, I started getting some crankiness from public services and interlibrary loan staff. Because whereas the items that we have withdrawn were not showing in the OPAC, they were showing up on the staff side. So staff was having to wade through a lot of chaff to try and find what they needed. And of course, it was also affecting interlibrary loan. So both on the borrowing side and the lending side, people were requesting things that we no longer owned, and they were not able to request things that the interlibrary loan system thought we still owned. So when you start with Koha, it's kind of like a blank slate. It's like, here I am, tell me what to do. And I really had no idea how to tell it what to do. So I wish someone would have handed this procedure to me when I was a brand new Koha user. And so I'm here today to hand it to you guys and other Koha libraries so you can avoid the angry mob of interlibrary loan staff. All right, so you guys are ready to delete some items. But before you do that, you want to extract the information that you might want or need from those items. So you're going to run any statistic reports first that you want to do. We also run reports for our selectors of things that have been lost and things that have been damaged and things that have been withdrawn so that they can decide whether or not we need to replace a copy. And I do that monthly for them, and I send them spreadsheets, which I'm sure they're thrilled to plow through because some of them are quite long. And the selectors are like, you know, it's really great, I guess, to see the withdrawn spreadsheets, but we do a lot of weeding. And the selectors were like, we really don't want to plow through things that we weeded on purpose. We don't want to have to look at them again. And so at that point, we set up 2 different authorized values so that the selectors could make a distinction between the stuff that they weeded and the stuff that circulation or tech services withdrew for condition. And so that was really helpful in kind of cutting down what they had to look through each month. And so that was all well and fine, but then the selectors were like, you know, I really don't need to know that we withdrew 1 copy of Harry Potter if we still have 20 copies that are circulating. So can you just show me the records where all of the circulating copies have either been lost, damaged, or withdrawn? And so I went to a report guru that we have on staff, Megan Favre, and she wrote this report, which is, we'll bring back bib records that have holds, but all of the items are either lost, damaged, or withdrawn. So this report is really helpful. The slides will be posted so that you can copy the SQL. And this is what it looks like after you run it. It will group the copies available 0 first. Eventually, if you scroll down, it'll get to 1, 2, and 3, and I just ignore those. But you can see that it'll list the bib records. It'll tell you the number of holds. You still have to go in and kind of investigate, because I don't want to buy something that just went long overdue last month, because the odds are that's going to come back in. The report also has a date range that you can set based on when the holds were placed. So I usually set it, I usually go back 6 months and then I end it about a month. And that way it just kind of cuts down on what I'm looking at. So kind of reviewing this report takes a little bit of time. It's not just a one and done thing, but it's been very helpful. And I'd rather do that than go through a giant list of all of the withdrawals that may or may not be relevant. All right. The other reports that I run for the selectors are basically similar to the weed list that show the checkouts and the circulation, but then it will just have the lost, damage, and withdrawn status. So those are the reports we do before we start making things go away. And the next step is Anne is going to tell you about, because she does this monthly.
Okay, so can everybody hear me okay? I have one of those voices. So, all right, so at this point, we're going to create our list of items to delete, and we're going to run a report to look for those that maybe we should remove from that list. And those would be item records that would have a negative impact on patron accounts if they were deleted. For instance, those that have unpaid fees associated with them. And then it's also a good opportunity to take a look at other statuses like lost statuses and damaged. So if there's like withdrawn and also amending, or withdrawn and claims returned, we can get that figured out before we delete anything. So the top half of the slide is the report that we run. So that's going to show us everything withdrawn for any reason during a certain, we do it the previous month for a certain date range. And then it's going to show any that have fees associated, and then the damaged and item loss statuses. So you can see that in the bottom table. So the first thing we do is sort on the sum column. We download everything into an Excel file. So we sort on sum and then just take anything that has a fee associated with it off the list. So we retain that in Koha. And then we would look at the lost or damaged statuses. And if there's anything that's not 0, we take a look at what that is. And either we resolve it or we take it aside to figure out later. All right, let's see. All right, so now we have a list of things that we really want to delete. So we would just copy that column of barcodes and go to the tools area for batch item deletion. And you would just paste it into the box there. And once you hit continue, this is what you'll see. You'll get a table that has a list of everything that you want to delete. And at this point, we really look for 2 things. The first is there anything still checked out on a patron's account? And kind of the unique thing with Koha is that if there's nothing checked out, you don't see that column. if there is something checked out, then you will see the checked out column with the date when it was checked out. But something that is nice is also if you look to the left of the title, that will be unselected. So you're not going to be able to delete it. But this is a good time before you actually complete the deletion to take a look at that title and resolve that issue, because it's hard to go back to it. Then the second thing we look at is the holds. And this is because at this point, we don't know if this item is one of many or just the very last one. So when we delete it, then we're going to recreate the situation where you've got a bibliographic record and no items. So an empty bib. So we sort on holds, and you'll see, and if you navigate, there will be, you might have a record that gets unselected, and that is going to be a title that has holds, but no items. So you want to go ahead and look at those titles at this point, because again, it's hard to go back. So you might want to buy a replacement or tell the patron that you might want to try interlibrary loan. Okay. So once you've verified that you've got down to just the item records you want to delete, you want to go all the way down to the bottom, and then you have a choice to make, because Koha can automatically delete those empty bib records. But for our purposes, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that they remain, because we want to export those to update our holdings. So at this point, we would just leave that box unchecked and then delete the selected items. All right. So now that we've taken care of the item records, we're going to look for all of the extraneous bib records that are no good anymore. And this is the report that we run. So what this is going to, but an important thing that we've had to add, we changed our interlibrary loan process. So it was hard, we were looking at the titles, but they no longer indicate that they're interlibrary loans. So we have to look at item type. So that's what the highlighted section is. And of course, you no longer have item records, so you're going to have to pull that information from the 942 fields for in the bib record. All right. Okay, so we download that into an Excel spreadsheet and we sort on item type. And we do have some bib records, like the ones that say invoice. We use that for acquisitions. So we're going to remove that from the list and retain that in Koha. And then we also picked up some interlibrary loan items. We're going to remove that from the list and retain in Koha. And then we sort on the biblio number column and look towards the bottom at the largest numbers, which are of course the newest records, and make sure we don't have any on order item records, not item records, bib records there. So we would want to remove those from the list as well. And then just copying the column of bib numbers, we would create a text file, and then Marci's going to tell you how to use that to export and then delete the bib records.
Thank you, Anne. All right, so you've gotten rid of all of the item records. You've identified the bib records that you need to export to update your holdings. So you're going to go back into the tools module and go to export data. And this is a rather long form, and near the top of the form, it will ask you to clear all items owned. When I first migrated to Koha, this would default to select all. So all those boxes were checked. And in my head, that made sense because yes, I want all the items. So I browsed to the next section and found my text file and went to export the items, and it kept exporting a totally empty file. And I did this like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, okay, this is broken. And I think at that point I did a buy water ticket, and I'm like, this isn't working. The tool is broken. And they were like, yeah, you don't have any items. So Koha is looking for items owned and there aren't any, so it's giving you an empty file. So save yourself a little bit of headache and make sure that those are all unchecked. So again, you're going to go in here to browse to find that text file that you just created. And then you're going to scroll down to the bottom of the stage, rename your file, and then you have the option to export it either in MARC format, you can do XML or a CSV file, depending on what you need to update your holdings. Make sure your file has stuff in it before you do the next step. So now that you've gotten that file of bib records, then you can go in back into tools, batch record deletion, and delete those bib records, because now they no longer bring you joy and they can leave. It's going to give you a table that will show you all of the items, holds, and checkouts. There shouldn't be any checkouts because there aren't any item records. There shouldn't be any items, but there may be some that slip through that still have holds on them. So I do sort that column just to see if there's any more that I can resolve for a customer. And that is it. I hope that that's useful for you, and we are happy to answer any questions. We're also happy to share any of our reports that we use. You can email either one of us. Does anyone have questions today? Pretty straightforward, not really too thrilling, but it makes your staff happy and eventually your patrons. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.